I used Bernat Forever Fleece, super bulky 6-weight yarn, and an 8mm crochet hook for this project. You could go up to a 10mm hook if you'd like. It would work just fine. And it came out to be 44 inches by 54 inches with the border. Okay, let's make our really easy V-stitch blanket. I've never made a V-stitch blanket before, and I couldn't believe how fast it worked up. You're really going to like this. I used Bernat Forever Fleece yarn. It's just one of my favorite yarns at the moment. I don't get paid anything by Bernat. I just like their yarn. This is blue teal. Color A, color B is white noise. Color C is peppermint, which is just a combination of those colors and a lighter blue teal. This is super simple. You would end up with a lot of tails because you change color after every row once you get to the third row. I did come up with a way that I didn't have to weave in all the ends. So if you want to try that, keep watching the video. Chain any multiple of 2. For this particular blanket, I chained 100, and it gave me a 50-inch blanket without the border, 54 with the border. I'm just making a little sample size for you. Okay. For the first row, and this is just going to give you a nice little foundation row. You'll end up with a single crochet row as well. Come into that second chain. I prefer to go on the back bump. I think it looks nicer. Find that back bump. Come through. Single crochet. There's your chain. There's your back bump. It's going to just kind of turn itself over, and it makes it easier to find the back bump. But if you're not real sure about it, turn it back over, find your next chain, turn it over, and yes, indeed, that is your back bump. So go all the way across your row with single crochets, preferably in the back bump. You don't have to do that. I will join you at the end of this row. All right, this very first row and the last row are the only ones where we're not going to be changing colors after each row. So just chain 1. Those are all single crochet. In the very first stitch, double crochet, yarn over, come through 2 loops, come through 2 loops, come in that second stitch with a double crochet, bring your loops up, come through 2, come through 2, 2 double crochet. And now we're going to start our V stitches. This is so easy. Skip 1 stitch. Into that next stitch, we're just going to make 2 double crochet. There are lots of different ways to do this. Some people put a chain in between the V's, and that looks good too. This is just the way I chose to make mine. Skip a stitch, go into the next stitch with 2 double crochets. You're going into that full stitch. Full stitch just means you're coming in through the front and the back right there. So skip a stitch, yarn over, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet. Now, you're making your V's. And that's what you're going to work into on your next row. I'm almost to the end of the row, so of my row. You're going to have a very long row. Now, if you want it to look like V's, I made my blanket wider than I meant to, really. I didn't want to go longer than using 2 skeins each of the blue teal and the blue peppermint. They come in packs of 2. Well, I was just trying to be economical. So what ended up happening was the 50-inch row here, the width, ended up being my length. I ended up turning it this way, and it looks really nice. If you don't want to do that, and you still want it to be this wide, you'll need to get more yarn than what I called for. Or you can make this less wide. You can make it as big as you want to, just your initial chain just needs to be a multiple of 2 and just a little bit wider than you want it to be. I hope that didn't confuse you terribly. My blankets are usually kind of a work in progress, trial and error. Right at the end of row 2 here, that's a V-stitch, skip 1. You have 2 stitches left. We started with 2 double crochet, we're going to end with 2 double crochet. There's 1, and here we're going to start a double crochet, but don't pull through the last 2. We are switching colors now every row. Cut your yarn, leave yourself a tail. I already did that. One day I'll have to make a bloopers reel. I messed up. All right, I do like to pull the tail around here. Get your new yarn, color B, pull it through, chain 1 with, include your tail from color B, turn. Now, take your tails, both your tails, tuck your tail. Make sure you're using your working yarn. Okay, find that very first stitch. Again, we're going to have 2 double crochet. The only reason you have 3 loops here is because I included my tail in that chain just to lock it in. All right, now this is going to look weird, but this keeps you from having to weave in all those ends. Okay, make yourself a loop. Okay, there's a loop. It's not as hard as it looks. It's a little hard for me to do on camera. Go through your next stitch, come into that loop, pull through, pull through both those colors, come all the way through the stitch, and then you're just going to complete your second double crochet. And this is what happens. This is what you end up with. It's fairly well locked in. All I did was I came back with each one of these later, and I'm tied it really, really tightly, which hides it under there. If you want to, you can do it twice. You don't really have to. It's not going anywhere. Made me feel better. Tight, 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 tight. Underneath there, and then just cut your yarn right close to it, and it's going to hide it. And then you don't have any ends to weave in. It looks pretty good. All right. So we have our 2 double crochet. There's our V-stitch. It doesn't get any easier than this. You make another V-stitch in that V-stitch. So 2, I'm all over the place here. 2 double crochet, excuse me, into that V. And there's your new V. See, make sure you're going into that V and not into these spaces here, right in the middle of that V, not in the stitch, just right in the middle there. 2 double crochet, which is your V. See? All right, continue that. I'll meet you at the end of the row where you'll start a double crochet. You'll have a double crochet, and then in your last stitch, start a double crochet, but don't complete it. We're changing colors. I want to show you the end of our color B row. There's your V. Don't go into that stitch. You have 2 stitches here. Okay, don't go into the part of your V there. Go into the next one. Double crochet. And the top of this stitch here. begin a double crochet. Drop it. You're going to be doing this a lot because we're changing color every row. You don't have to. You can make as many rows of the same color as you want to. You can make it all one color if you want to. It's your blanket. You can do what you want. Now I'm going on to color C, which is peppermint. I always associated peppermint with red and white, but that's what they're calling this. All right. Again, I like to pull this over because it pulls your yarn up. So when you're making that loop. All right, let's see. Add your new yarn. This is color C. Hold on to that tail. Just brings it up so that when you're hiding it, it's up where it needs to be. Now use your tail from your new color, color C. Make a chain. Now bring the tail from your previous color and your new color together. You're going to hide them. There's that very first stitch. Double crochet right into there. Remember, you have 3 loops only because you included your tail. And now you're going to make that crazy loop. Don't have to do this. You can weave in your ends if you want to. I didn't want to. All right. I'm trying to do this without looking at the camera. Hopefully I have it in range. Come into your next stitch. Go into that loop. You see that? Pull your yarn through that loop. And double crochet. And again, this is on the opposite side. Oops, pull that through. Just brings it through. You can tie it, cut, hide it. Really tying it just once would work just fine. And you wouldn't end up with kind of a hard little knot. I can't feel any of the little knots because this is really chunky yarn and the knot was well hidden. Okay, so same thing. There's your V. Not here. Go in the middle of your V. Make all your V stitches, which is simply 2 double crochet. I thought this looked pretty, alternating the blue teal with the peppermint. The peppermint has both the white and the blue teal, and then a little bit of a lighter teal. It just looks pretty. The hardest thing for me when I'm making a pattern is deciding what colors to use, because there are so many color combinations that are so pretty. Look how nice that is. We'll go to the end of the row. I want to show you that crazy loop at the end. I don't mind weaving in ends, especially with the chunky yarn, but my goodness, there would be so many of them because you're changing color at the end of each row. Okay, that was our last V, so don't go into that stitch. There are 2 stitches there. Sometimes that last one is hard to find because you included the tail. Just turn it over. You can see the V there. That's your stitch. If you want, you can go all the way under into all of that, but you don't have to. You can go into just that top V. All right, loop. Pull your loop up. Cut your yarn. Give yourself a good tail. Going back to color B. This is the way that I chose to do it. I chose to use white in between each. Whoops. I like to pull that over. You don't have to. It doesn't make a huge difference, but Once you get going on this, it becomes so automatic. All right, bring my tail around. Just see how that brings it right up. Okay. Hide your tails. Find that very first stitch. Sometimes it's hard to find. Whoops, look at that. I was just what I told you not to do. Trying to use my tail. Find your working yarn. That's your real yarn. Put your tails back there. Yarn over. Very first stitch. Come through and come through. And one more time, make your loop. Doop. It just twists a little bit. That helps lock it in again. Go into your next stitch. Go into your loop. It can be really loose because you can pull it tight with the tails when you're done. And make your double crochet. See, I left it really loose there. Doop. Tie it, cut it, you're done. This is how the edges end up. When you get to the very top, I had 14 rows, V rows, of each of the blue teal and the peppermint. And I had 27 rows of the white. And like I said, I ended up going this way with it, which I think looks really nice, just the way it ended up. Because we made a nice single crochet row to begin with, which I did not do on my blanket, and I wish I had. That's why I did it with this one. It gives you a better stitch to work into if you do want to make a border, and if you don't want to make a border, it looks really nice. So when you get to the top, this will be, your last row will be peppermint. Come back with the peppermint with just a row of single crochet. And if you're not going to use a border, then simply fasten off. If you are going to use a border, I will meet you back here. And I'm just going to pretend we're at the top. I'll make my single crochet row and we'll make the border. Just a quick note. I'm pulling the white out because I want to come across again and just pretend that this is the top of our row. But, excuse me, look. It doesn't want to come out. You can get it out. But I just wanted to show you that that's pretty darn secure. So for this last row, oh, I've already cut my yarn. Let me pretend that I didn't do that. Get back with my peppermint. Just a quick note. I'm pulling the white out because I want to come across again and just pretend that this is the top of our row. But, excuse me, look. It doesn't want to come out. You can get it out. But I just wanted to show you that that's pretty darn secure. So for this last row, oh, I've already cut my yarn. Let me pretend that I didn't do that. Get back with my peppermint. Where are we? Oop, that's my other color. Okay, so your final row, like I said, I ended up with the peppermint. You might want to end up with the blue teal so that you have the same color on the bottom and the top, which I actually really like that. I just chose to do it this way. All single crochets across. It was just a chain one, single crochets across. Find that last stitch. Excuse me, I'm going to start a single crochet, but because I'm going to make the border, I cut my yarn. I'm going to bring in my white. Ooh, I've got it all tangled up. Okay. Here we go. Pull it through. Now, actually, this tail you will weave in. I'm not going to make a loop out of that. Now, in this corner stitch here, come through, make 3 single crochet. It's just going to help you pull that tight. Have a rounded corner, otherwise it pulls too much. You probably would want to go ahead and tie and cut these at the end of each row, and then you don't have to deal with them later. So as you're coming down the side, just find a stitch. Doesn't have to be perfect. Go in with a single crochet. I did like to catch the side stitch there instead of going into the holes. Every now and then you're going to have to go into the hole, and that's fine. Just come all the way down. Every now and then, just check and make sure it looks kind of even. You'll have to make some judgment calls here and there on where you want to put your stitch. When you get to the corner, the very bottom corner here, make 3 single crochet. You can make 4 if you want to, make it a little rounder even, but that worked for me. Now see how starting off with that single crochet row, especially if you went into the back bump, it's just going to make it so much easier for you to make a border. You have some really nice stitches to go into. So single crochet. This is a very simple border. I made it up. I'm sure other people have made up the same exact border. There's really nothing new in crochet. It's been around for so long. Somebody has made some sort of stitch. Somebody has made some sort of stitch pattern. But that's okay. We all share. And it's just a big crochet community. So continue with that. When you reach each corner, because it's going to take you a lot longer than it will me. Although this border went really, really fast for me. Let's see if I want to use that as my corner stitch. I do. So 3 single crochet in the corner. And I'm going to turn the corner. I have to go in the hole there because I don't have a full stitch. Continue on. If you want, you can just stop at having the single crochet border. I'll meet you when I come back to join that very first. Right, I'm back to my first corner. Let's find that stitch right there. Slip stitch. Chain 1. Now we're going to switch over. Into each stitch we're going to make a herringbone half double crochet. So yarn over, go into that stitch you just came out of, pull up, pull that first loop through the second loop, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops, and you're going to make a herringbone half double crochet in each stitch around each of those single crochets. Pull up, pull the first loop through the second loop, pull through 2. On the corners, we're not going to do 3 stitches in the corner, although you could if you wanted to. It would make it a little bit rounder. I just say when you're making the corners, keep your stitches a little bit looser. Come through, pull through 1 loop, pull through 2 loops. So as long as you leave your stitches a little bit looser, it'll still stay rounded. It's a bigger stitch than the single crochet. So in every stitch, and you'll be happy now that you have all those single crochets to go into, pull through the first loop, yarn over and pull through 2. You're going to do that all the way around. Look how pretty that is. It's pretty on the other side too. Go all the way around. I'll meet you when we come back to the beginning. Okay, we are back to that very first herringbone half double crochet. Come into that stitch, or to the chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1. This is how it's looking so far. Isn't that pretty? If you've seen my other videos, you know that herringbone half double crochet is my all-time favorite stitch. I love it. I think it's so pretty. It's really pretty also when you're working in the round like this, instead of going back and forth. Okay, let's come into that very first stitch there. We're going to do 1 more row. You can do as many as you want. I did 2 and I think it looks really nice. Herringbone half double crochet, yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. When you're making the border, err on the side of making your stitches a little loose so that it doesn't pull and pucker. I'd rather have it be have a little bit of a ruffle from a loose stitch than to pull in and pucker. Especially in the corners, make yourself some nice loose stitches. Pull it up and come through. Just nice and loose. It just makes for a more even border. Come through each stitch, yarn over. These are nice stitches to work into. Pull through that first loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop. Oh, isn't that pretty? I really like it a lot. And then on the back, it's different, but it's still really pretty. It is definitely reversible. Oh, I just really like this border. And as I said, I think 2 rows was just perfect. I think any more than that, for me, would have been a little border heavy. I hope you enjoy this pattern. If you do, please leave me a comment. I love to get comments. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification button and then you'll be notified every time I come out with a new pattern. It's been a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks here. My husband was in the hospital having heart surgery, and he's doing just fine and dandy now. But I was not able to get to my crochet, though I did bring yarn and crochet hooks with me, and I just made a bunch of granny squares, which I'll make a blanket with later. So give me a thumbs up if you like it, and I will see you for my next video, which will probably be in a few days. Thanks for watching. Well, my sister Julie said that these look like snow-topped mountains. I can see that. Let me know if you see it. It looks different in different lighting, but it's definitely a blue teal. Hope you enjoy it.